Mines feel planned and purposeful. People cut these tunnels by hand, worked in them for years, and then one day everyone left, abandoning their tools in the dark. That is why the things found in these empty passages are among the most unsettling discoveries on the planet. Today, we will look at stories of strange, creepy, and surprising things that explorers have uncovered deep inside deserted mines. The hidden ritual chamber of Partosa. A team from the University of Naples was exploring the karst caves of Partosa in southern Italy when they discovered a hidden ritual chamber carved deep into the limestone. The chamber dates to the Hellenistic period, roughly the 4th to 1st centuries BCE. However, some objects inside are even older, indicating Bronze Age use and suggesting the site remained active for over 1,000 years. Inside the small chamber, archaeologists found terracotta figurines, small altars, coins, and offering vessels arranged with care. With low ceilings and narrow access tunnels, the space would have required visitors to crouch and squeeze through, leading researchers to believe it served as a secluded ritual site, possibly used by religious cults. A gigantic ancient serpent was discovered in a mine in northern Colombia. About 58 million years ago, the area was a hot, swampy jungle home to giant turtles, large crocodile-like animals, and lungfish that grew up to 7 feet long. Among them was Titanoboa, a snake more than 40 feet long and weighing over a ton. Paleontologist Jonathan Block compared the discovery of its bones to being handed a mouse skull the size of a rhinoceros. Researchers have recovered more than 100 vertebrae from at least 28 individual snakes. In 1974, a mine safety crew entered an abandoned iron mine in Minnesota to survey tunnel stability. The mine had been closed since the 1930s, and all main entrances were secured with locked steel grates. After descending about 600 feet, an inspector noticed clear shoe prints in the dust that appeared recent. The trail continued into a section affected by multiple cave-ins and ended abruptly at a collapsed tunnel roof. Despite hours of searching, the team found no person, equipment, or signs of habitation. All entrances were rechecked on exit and remained locked exactly as before. Could someone have been trapped inside the mine for decades, or is that impossible? Comment and chat with me. Everyone knows about the giant heads of Easter Island. It turns out most of them are not just heads, but have bodies buried underground. Archaeologists discovered this as early as 1914, though it was not widely known until decades later. Joanne Van Tilburg, who leads the Easter Island Statue Project, excavated several statues between 2010 and 2014 and documented the carvings on their bodies for the first time. The soil helped protect the designs from weathering, leaving them surprisingly well preserved. The moai were carved by the Rapa Nui people between 1100 and 1500 to honor important ancestors. Some reach up to 10 meters tall, weigh around 80 tons, and nearly 1,000 exist across the island. In 2005, a group exploring a long-abandoned lead mine in Wales noticed pale shapes on the ground. At first, they assumed the shapes were pieces of ore or limestone, but then they began to scurry. The explorers had discovered a population of albino cave insects and rodents adapted to a pitch-black environment. Some of the rodents lacked eyes entirely, not from injury, but due to a rare genetic mutation seen in animals isolated in complete darkness for many generations. Because the mine had been sealed for decades, the colony had evolved underground without human interference. Biologists later confirmed the phenomenon, noting how confidently the animals navigated total darkness, offering a striking example of how life can adapt in abandoned places. Sitting beneath the Greenbrier Resort in West Virginia is one of America's best-known Cold War secrets. Built in the 1950s, this underground bunker was designed to house Congress in the event of a nuclear war. It included dormitories, a cafeteria, a medical clinic, and even a television studio for emergency broadcasts. For decades, it remained hidden as part of the resort's conference center, until a journalist revealed its existence in 1992. The government later decommissioned the facility, but the bunker remains intact and is now open for public tours. While crews were widening a busy road in eastern England, archaeologists came across a massive stone coffin that had been buried for over 1,000 years. The coffin, weighing about 1,650 pounds, sat along what was once an important Roman route, connecting towns and military outposts. David Harrison of Headland Archaeology described it as a remarkable discovery, noting that stone coffins from this period rarely survive intact. Excavating it required months of careful work by archaeologists and engineers to lift and document it without causing damage. The size and craftsmanship suggest it likely belonged to a person of high status. If this video meant something to you, hit the like button and let us know. And if you're on your phone, don't forget to tap the hype button right below. Archaeologists at El Mirador cave in northern Spain uncovered the remains of 11 individuals from about 5,700 years ago, showing signs of tool use, heat exposure, and deliberate human handling. According to researcher Antonio Rodriguez Hidalgo, this was not caused by food shortages, as all individuals died around the same time and resources were available. Instead, the evidence points to a conflict-related ritual involving a rival group, likely intended to assert dominance and spiritual erasure. The site lies in the Atapuerca region, known for many similar discoveries dating back nearly 1 million years. In 2024, archaeologists from Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History were surveying desert mountains in Coahuila when they discovered a vertical shaft only 50 centimeters wide, leading to a hidden cave. After squeezing through the narrow opening, they reached a chamber containing the remains of 17 individuals, carefully wrapped and placed alongside small offerings. Carbon dating shows the burials occurred over several hundred years, and the cave was deliberately sealed and concealed far from any settlements. The extreme remoteness and narrow entrance suggest the site was intentionally hidden. Researchers described it as a hidden vertical tomb, noting that the organized placement of bones and artifacts indicates purposeful burials with cultural significance. In 2023, archaeologists from the Inner Mongolia Institute of Cultural Relics and Archaeology uncovered a network of underground tunnels beneath the ancient settlement of Pangshangzoi in northern China. Dating back roughly 4,300 to 4,500 years, the system includes 6 passages running beneath what was once the city center. Researchers believe the tunnels were constructed for defensive and strategic purposes during the late Neolithic period, allowing people to move discreetly beneath the settlement. Some passages extend from the center to the outer edges, suggesting they may have been used to reposition defenders during conflicts. Scorch marks on the walls indicate the tunnels were navigated by torchlight, and their low ceilings show that movement required crouching or crawling. The discovery ranks among the oldest known underground military tunnel systems ever found. In 2012, a group exploring an abandoned copper mine in Michigan discovered a narrow doorway they had never noticed. Inside was a room about 15 feet wide and 20 feet long, with the floor completely covered in shoes. Some were modern, others were worn leather boots, and some were small children's shoes from the early 1900s. Local historians later determined that miners often discarded worn-out footwear underground to avoid carrying it back to the surface. However, the sheer number of shoes was far greater than the mine's recorded workforce at any one time, and some appeared ceremonial or decorative, suggesting the room may have been used before mining began. The site has since collapsed, preventing further investigation. In southern Mexico, a feared sinkhole called Sako drew archaeologist Bradley Russell and his team in 2014. After rappelling 40 feet past stalactites and roots, they discovered underground chambers containing human remains, which helps explain the site's unsettling reputation. The first chamber included scattered skeletal elements, with signs of Maya cultural practices and remains believed to belong to a young adult. A larger, fully submerged second chamber contained additional remains that had shifted after a collapse. Russell described the dive as extremely hazardous and suggested the site may have been used to separate individuals who were victims from illness, protecting nearby communities and their water source. On the Isle of Lewis in Scotland, archaeologists discovered this underground stone chamber dating to the late Iron Age, somewhere between 500 and 100 BCE. The passage is about 22 feet long and 4 feet wide. You get to it by going down these carefully cut stone steps that lead into this cool, dark chamber below. The ceiling dips in spots, so you're crouching or even crawling in some areas. The walls are made of overlapping sandstone blocks that press in just enough to make the air feel heavy and tight. Nobody really knows exactly why this place was built. Some think it was a place to hide people or stash food and supplies, but there's no way to be sure. Inside the Sterling Mine Complex in Oregon, which closed in the 1950s, explorers uncovered a preserved underground ghost town. After decades of collapsed entrances, experienced mine explorers reached a deep tunnel in 1999 and discovered a vast staging cavern once used by miners. The sealed space contained wooden structures, lockers, chalkboards, cooking stoves, boots lined on shelves, a stocked first aid station, and even readable newspapers from the 1940s. Protected from light and moisture, the cavern appeared frozen in time, as if the miners had simply left and never returned. Deep in the forest of Gabon in Central Africa, researchers discovered a hidden underground chamber. They lowered themselves nearly 50 feet through a narrow vertical shaft to reach it, where no natural light penetrates. At the bottom, they found the skeletal remains of at least 28 people scattered across the floor, along with hundreds of iron and copper artifacts such as jewelry and weapons. Some remains were arranged in deliberate positions, suggesting ritual burials. No nearby settlement or written records explain the site, and its purpose remains unknown. With a sheer vertical entrance and no easy access, archaeologists still do not know how the remains were placed inside or how many artifacts remain buried in the sediment. It stands as one of the most unusual underground discoveries in Africa. You probably do not think of warehouses and data centers as secretive, but Missouri is home to some of the largest underground storage facilities in the world. Carved into former limestone mines, these vast spaces stretch for miles and are used for purposes ranging from cold storage to archival records. Sites such as Subtropolis, which even has its own roads and postal addresses, operate openly as commercial facilities. While many areas are well documented, others are less publicly discussed, leading to occasional speculation about restricted or government-related uses. However, no verified evidence confirms the presence of secret government bunkers. You have probably heard of Dura-Europos, the famous underground city in Turkey, believed to have housed around 20,000 people. About a decade ago, archaeologists identified what may be another large underground complex beneath the modern town of Nevşehir in central Turkey, potentially comparable in scale. The discovery began when construction work exposed carved tunnels descending into volcanic rock. Archaeological investigations revealed an extensive underground settlement with living areas, stairways, storage rooms, and ventilation shafts hidden beneath today's streets. Researchers estimate the site is thousands of years old and likely served as a refuge during periods of conflict. Much of the complex remains sealed, and deeper levels have yet to be fully explored. While some reports suggest the presence of additional connecting tunnels, their extent has not been confirmed. If its size approaches that of Dura-Europos, the site could significantly expand what is known about underground habitation in the region. Deep in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, cave divers discovered a submerged ochre mine dating back about 11,000 years. Reaching it required navigating tight, pitch-dark underwater tunnels that once led miners to chambers with stone tools, red pigment deposits, and simple fire pits for light. Preserved footprints in the sediment show where people last worked before rising sea levels at the end of the Ice Age flooded and sealed the mine, freezing it in time thousands of years before the pyramids were built. Over the past several years, archaeologists working at Saqqara near the Temple of Bastet have uncovered deep vertical shafts leading to sealed tombs that had not been accessed for more than 2,000 years. The discoveries began in 2021, and each excavation season revealed additional layers below the last. Some shafts descend more than 30 feet and contain mummies, sealed wooden coffins, and artifacts stacked over generations, creating a dense network of tombs within tombs. In the deepest chambers, many spaces were completely sealed with large stone slabs. When archaeologists carefully opened them, they found dozens of well-preserved mummies, painted sarcophagi, statues, and scrolls with readable hieroglyphs. One chamber alone contained 150 bronze statues of Egyptian deities, including Anubis and Osiris. Nearly 2,000 years ago, 19 Roman soldiers entered a cramped underground tunnel outside the Syrian city of Dura-Europos to stop Persian forces from undermining the city walls. Instead of encountering the enemy, they were overcome by thick black smoke that quickly incapacitated them. All were found dead within the tunnel. Historian Simon James, reviewing excavation records from the 1930s, concluded that the scene resulted from a deliberate trap. The Persians had ignited sulfur and bitumen, filling the tunnel with toxic fumes after the Romans intercepted their passage. Adrian Mayer of Stanford University has noted that such methods were known in the ancient world, as armies often used smoke, fire, or other substances in confined spaces. In this context, the use of toxic smoke by Persian forces is considered historically plausible. This past July in Lima, Peru, workers digging trenches to expand an underground gas network discovered 2 pre-Incan tombs, one empty and the other containing a body about 1,000 years old. Alongside the skeleton were 4 clay pots and 3 carved pumpkin shells, likely used to store food or offerings. Archaeologist Jose Aliaga explained that the designs and colors on the pottery link the burial to the pre-Incan Chanque culture, which lived roughly between 1,000 and 1,470 years ago. The individual was found seated with their legs drawn up to the chest, and researchers are carefully cleaning and studying the remains. With a population of around 10 million, Lima sits atop hundreds of pre-Incan and Incan sites, making discoveries like this relatively common. Near Leicester Cathedral, archaeologists uncovered a narrow shaft containing the remains of 123 men, women and children, dating to the early 12th century. The bones show no signs of violence, suggesting death from starvation or disease, with pestilence considered the most likely cause. Evidence indicates the bodies were placed into the pit rapidly, and with some care, possibly wrapped in shrouds. Radiocarbon dating shows the burial predates the Black Death by more than 150 years, leaving the exact cause unknown, but offering rare insight into a severe and sudden crisis in medieval Leicester. Washington, D.C., is known for its layered history, including an abandoned tunnel system beneath L'Enfant Plaza. Originally part of an underground trolley network built in the 1940s, the tunnels were later closed when the city transitioned to a modern subway system. Unlike many other disused tunnels, these passages are tightly sealed and difficult to access. While most evidence suggests they are simply remnants of outdated infrastructure, their restricted access has led to occasional speculation about other uses. However, no verified information confirms that the tunnels are active or serve any current purpose. In 1993, miners working in Iran's Duzlak salt mine discovered a naturally preserved human head encased in salt, later identified as the first of several mummified individuals now known as the Salt Men of Iran. The remains belonged to ancient miners who were not intentionally buried or embalmed, but were preserved naturally after dying in mine collapses, with the salt preventing decay. Some were found in lifelike positions, indicating they were rapidly preserved at the moment of the accident. One individual, known as Salt Man No. 4, was a teenage boy whose remains provided rare insight into ancient life, including evidence of his recent diet. According to researchers at the University of Zurich, these discoveries are unique examples of naturally preserved individuals from the ancient Persian period, and remain the only known salt mummies in the world. In 2016, geoscientists from the University of Toronto discovered water estimated to be around 2 billion years old deep inside a mine in Timmins, Ontario. Lead researcher Oliver Warr noted that the water showed isotopic signals never previously observed. The team had first identified extremely ancient water at a depth of about 2.4 kilometers in an active copper, zinc, and silver mine in 2013, then later found even older samples deeper underground. By analyzing gases such as helium, argon, neon, krypton, and xenon trapped within the water, researchers were able to determine its age. The water is exceptionally salty, up to 8 times saltier than seawater, and Warr remarked that while it is not harmful to sample, it would taste extremely unpleasant. In Sicily, archaeologists have restored a colossal statue of Atlas that lay buried in ruins for centuries. The figure, about 8 meters tall, once stood at the unfinished temple of Zeus and depicted the Titan straining to support the sky. In 1812, architect Charles Cockerell identified the statue after recognizing a massive sandstone block as its head, leading scholars to learn that nearly 40 such figures once surrounded the temple. Earthquakes and later stone removal reduced them to scattered fragments. Beginning in 2004, researchers cataloged nearly 90 pieces and reconstructed one Atlas on a metal frame, allowing the stone giant to stand again for the first time in over 2,000 years. In Sardinia, archaeologists uncovered parts of 2 giant boxer statues at the Monte Prama necropolis, a site of massive stone figures nearly 3,000 years old. The newly found shielded torsos match earlier discoveries, but their recovery is slow because the heavy blocks must be carefully freed from surrounding sediment. First revealed by farmers in 1974, The site was once misdated to Carthaginian times, but is now known to have been created between about 850 and 750 BCE. So far, researchers have identified around 24 statues of boxers, archers and warriors, though their purpose remains a mystery. In Egypt, archaeologists found a massive red granite head from one of the largest statues of Pharaoh Amenhotep III, who ruled around 1370 BCE. Only the head and an arm survive today, both housed in the British Museum, and it remains unclear whether the statue was originally built at the discovery site or moved there from Amenhotep's mortuary temple across the Nile. During his reign, Amenhotep III commissioned many statues, including the Colossi of Memnon, which still stand. Scholars initially believed the head depicted Thutmose III, and it may have been reused from an earlier statue, as pharaohs often reshaped and reinscribed monuments of their predecessors. In this case, the lips were altered and lines around the eyes removed. Discovered in 1817 by Giovanni Battista Belzoni and Henry William Beechey at the Temple of Mute, the head took 8 days to transport a single mile to Luxor before being shipped to Alexandria, and eventually London, even spending time in a private home in Cairo along the way. Archaeologists digging in Kuwait's Al-Subia desert uncovered a tiny clay head with an unusual, almost snake-like face. It has an elongated skull, slanted eyes, a flat nose, and no mouth, closely resembling the mysterious snake-person figures of the Ubaid culture, which lived more than 7,000 years ago. This is the first example of its kind found in the Gulf region. An archaeologist from the Polish Center of Mediterranean Archaeology suggested the elongated shape may not have been purely stylistic, proposing it could have served a practical purpose, such as holding a wig or headpiece, though it may also have held symbolic meaning. Moaning Cave in Calaveras County, California, earned a strange reputation after gold miners discovered it in 1851 and could not see its bottom even by torchlight. Early explorations uncovered human bones, and later accounts described remains deep within the cave, some encased in mineral deposits. Excavations have confirmed the presence of bones from at least 11 individuals, suggesting that people fell into the cave over thousands of years. Today, the cave is known for both its unsettling history and the moaning sound created as air moves through its tunnels. Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time.